Welcome to the MindSpeaking podcast, where we talk about the human side of data. In other words, data, communication, and personal development. My name is Gilbert Eikelenboom. I'm driven by curiosity, and my aim is to spread insights that you can apply in your life starting today. So, let's do it. Let's start MindSpeaking. Welcome to another episode of the MindSpeaking podcast, where we speak about the human side of data. I'm excited for today because today we have Jason Krantz as a guest on the show. And Jason is the founder and CEO of Strategy Titan. It's a data analytics company that helps organizations grow their top and bottom line with data. He earned his MBA from the University of Notre Dame, and he has more than 10 years of experience in business analytics, data science, and strategic leadership. He was recognized as the top 40 under 40 in 2017. And you should be excited for this episode because Jason has some great insights. You will hear about how to build a data-driven culture, how to communicate to business stakeholders, how to deal with change and setbacks, and also 3 powerful reframes. To summarize, lots of lessons for your career and even for your personal life. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Enjoy. Jason, welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you again.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great that you're here. And we talked a bit before the show started, and that only makes me more excited. We connected beginning of last year. I remember well. We had some brief conversations, and you also spoke about on my book launch event, which I'm very grateful for. And you wrote the foreword of my book, the second edition of my book. So I'm very excited to have you here. We have a similar mindset, I think, and there's so much to explore about your history, your personality. So that's something I want to unpack today, and I'm excited. So
no, I wanted to say is like your book is when I read that, when I first put eyes on it, I was like, this is an instant classic. This is a masterpiece, and I was honored to be a part of that. So I just want to give you kudos for that because it's something I've actually read it twice already, and I give it to pretty much everybody I meet.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I really appreciate the support there. And on this podcast, we talk a lot about personal development. I know that's something that you're passionate about as well. And if we talk about development, we talk about a process from a start to the end. And here you are, the kind of end product, or not end product. Tomorrow you will be different. But I also want to go back to your earlier life. So I'm very curious to hear, who was Jason Krantz in high school?
Yeah, Jason Krantz in high school was an interesting individual. With most of us, we look back and like, who is that person? But there were a number of attributes that really crystallized at that time in my life. And for me, sport was a massive impact on my life. It actually is the foundation for kind of my growth mindset today. And a quick story on that. I was when I was in high school, I did all sports, cross country, football, not football, track, just everything, basketball. And then track was one of my favorites, and I did the half mile and the mile because my dad did the half mile and the mile. So one day we had a meet, and the coach goes, well, hey, do whatever you want. And I'm like, I'm going to do the 100, the 200, the 400. And I'd never ran those races before. And I went out and ran them, and essentially I ran state qualifying times my first time ever running them. My coach was like, Jason, where the heck did that come from? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where it came from. I have no clue. So he goes, okay, you're done running the half mile. We're putting you in the 100 and 200 meters. And so what I realized is, and this is one of the things I talk about a lot on LinkedIn, is try a lot of things to see what you're good at, because you might find you're really good at something naturally. And for me, what it was is I'm like, well, I really like this. This race matches, like, it's exciting, it's fun. I'm good at it. Let's keep training for that. And I kept wanting to get better and better and better and better. But the thing was, I didn't know how to train. I had no idea how to train. So long story short, I went and I reached out to some college coaches. They were like, hey, by NCAA rules, we can't give you an exact program, but here's a program that we share. If you execute on this program, this is the same program like college teams, Olympians will execute on. All you got to do is you just got to do it. So I had the plan. And they're like, you just got to do it. But as you know, just doing it is often the hardest part. And so what I did was at this early juncture in my life, I realized that if getting the plan is the first part, but you got to do the day in, day out stuff that's really mundane and really boring to get good so that when championship season shows up, you're ready. You're ready physically, mentally, emotionally. You walk to the line knowing I've done the work that I need to do to be prepared for this. And then that mindset just taught me that if you get a good plan, you execute, and you do it on a consistent basis and seek constant improvement, that's the central theme, constant improvement, you'll naturally hit your limit, but you can realize your maximum potential. And that formed the foundation of my attitude in life of just constant growth, constantly seeking how do we get better, getting guidance from others, working with people like you to refine certain aspects of, in this case, communication or leadership or whatever it may be. And the thing is that was a valuable life lesson. It transcends work. It applies to sport, your personal life, your professional life, really any area of life. That core idea can be applied in pretty much any environment. So for me, that was the foundation. Young Jason it did certain things that are principles I still use, 20 years later.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. And actually, I was about to jump in about your sprinting history, right? Because you were a Division I sprinter, and it sounds like you learned so much from that period. And other people might not have had that experience in sports, right? Or almost professional sports. How do you think those people that don't have those experiences can still adopt the mindset, or can still motivate themselves to get going, to execute, like you're saying?
Absolutely. So you're absolutely correct. My story is unique to me, but that's the great thing, is that the core theme is challenge. You're trying to climb a mountain. All of us have a mountain we're trying to climb. For you, it might be a technical proficiency or a skill you want to develop, a relationship you want to cultivate. Whatever it is, all of us have one, and if we don't, we should have one. Because being complacent with the status quo is a very dangerous thing in my mind. There's nothing wrong with that. But at least for me, the type of people I like to surround myself with are people that are striving for better. They're not complacent with the status quo. Now, to bring it back to your original question is, yeah, the sprinting is unique, and few people get to that level, but all of us have something we want to do either now or in the future. You've got that vision, and so it becomes, okay, I've got that vision, and not only do we have one now, we probably have one in the past, that even if we failed in it, you can still learn from. I'm a firm believer. I would not have believed this even 10 years ago, but I have found, as I mature in life, that the best learning experiences genuinely come from getting your butt kicked, from losing, from failing. The key is that we actually take the time to look back at, why did that happen? What could I have done better? What did I learn, and what can I change for the future? So to me, failure is actually a very critical component of success. But the key is we've got to be willing to learn from it. And this is one of the things that I see even in the entrepreneurial realm. I did this myself. You want to mitigate risk so much that you don't actually do anything. And then you just sit there paralyzed, right? And there's nothing wrong. I did it myself. I still do it. But it's looking at saying that, like, let's be smart, let's be systematic, let's mitigate as much risk as possible, but let's also accept the reality. Things might go wrong. But that's not the end. It's not. As long as we learn from it. Because it's just get one step closer, and one step closer, and one step closer to where we want to go.
Right. I really like that perspective, and what you're saying about risk. In the past, I always saw risk as a financial risk or risk to my business or career, but more and more I see the creative risk and the pressure of culture and environment and norms and values and what other people expect from us as a risk, right? Because if we put ourselves out there, if we create content or try to build something new, start a new company, there will always be people criticizing and saying, hey, that's not how you're supposed to be. That's not how I know you. You don't fit in the frame anymore. And I don't like it. So I like what you're saying about that. And also about the mountain, because in high school, your mountain was sports or other mountains. And now your mountain has changed, right? The mountain that you're climbing right now. How has that process been? And can you talk to us about that? How that mountain changed and how that process went?
Yeah, I think for me, and I imagine other people go through a similar process, but it's evolved. And what I thought I wanted 15, 10, even 5 years ago, it changes. That's not to say that'll happen for everybody. Some people are fine doing that, but again, with my growth mindset, I'm constantly seeking new, creating, breaking new ground. And so, I wrote a post about this last week where when I first started out, I wanted to do programming, architecture, and all this technical stuff because I was convinced that was the key to success. And then I realized, wow, it's really hard to actually move the needle, which is one of my core goals. From a technical realm, I got to get more in the business realm. So I made the effort to shift my career more to business. But even at the business realm, I saw poor leadership. And I said, you know what? I think I can lead the change that I want to be. I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to seek out opportunities to put myself in that situation, get beat up, but again, learn from the errors. So I took early management positions, made a lot of mistakes, but it was in the spirit of going in knowing that I'm going to do a lot wrong, but that's fine because these are things I need to do in order to get it right down the road. So now, as it continued to grow and evolve, I laugh. I talk about this all the time with my buddies. I go, the things I focus on the most now, today, culture, transformation, inspiring people, creating vision, and getting them to buy into the program, they were things I laughed about in my beginning of my career. I'm like, oh, ponies and unicorns. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. And I find a lot of irony in that in terms of my own as I reflect back. And these are lessons that I try to pass on to others where I'm talking to young data science professionals. And this is why I ask the question of what is your mountain? And I say this because it's going to change. Guarantee you it's going to change. Typically the people I'm talking to, and this is applicable to anybody, but in the universe I work with, they're typically very capable and very entrepreneurial individuals. So I can relate to their situation. But again, the core themes transfer to pretty much anybody. And it's the idea that what you think you want today, as you get to the top of that peak, you're going to see another mountain. And then you're going to see another one. Some of these are going to be in the distance. You won't be able to get to them yet. But you need to start doing things today to get ready to climb that mountain. And so that progression I talked about was once I got over the first peak, I was like, wow, that leadership looks really good, but I'm not ready to climb that one yet. But I'm going to climb the next mountain. That'll get me closer and closer. And the whole point of this, to bring it back to that central theme was, I learned this through trial and error in mentoring, people coach. I sought out guidance from others that had done what I was looking to do. And I took their advice and I really listened. But I really listen a lot more now because I saw the journey that I went through, and things I laughed about in the beginning are now the core of my focus, and that I never would have thought I would have gotten here, right? And I had people tell me, and I was like, yeah. So now when I talk to people, I go, listen, I can relate to exactly what you're thinking, and I tell them that story. And I go, my only point in telling that story is to let you know you're probably going to go on a similar journey. And I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just simply sharing my experience. But as you progress down this path, and this is long game stuff, this is multi-year, but move forward with the vision and the comfort. Things are going to change. You're going to make mistakes, but that's part of getting to where you want to go, because if you don't get out of your comfort zone, you're never going to get to those peaks that you're capable of getting to. And it's really gets to that theme of getting people to get out of their own way to create that vision of what's bigger and greater than maybe where they're thinking right now, and that you're not going to get there overnight, but you got to take those sequential steps.
Right. And that's why it's so important to envision what you want in life, because everyone has their own mountain, right? It's very personal what you want to do. Some people want to work very hard. Some people want to work 30 hours and do other stuff next to their job, depending on their situation. And what you say about long term, I think it's so true, and I think that's also the reason why it's so difficult to take action, right? It's much easier to make decisions that are leading to short-term comfort instead of long-term discomfort. And that's why I believe this is so difficult but also rewarding to climb that mountain and first define what's your mountain that you want to climb. And you also touch upon culture, something that you talk about more often. And what have you learned about culture and creating a data-driven culture? Do you have any thoughts how other leaders in the industry can achieve that?
Yeah, for this is one I feel very passionately about. Is that it's for being blunt, I'd say it's impossible to really truly influence culture as a CDO or something like that if you're sitting on the sidelines. You got to be front and center with the business. They got to be able to trust you and know, how are you going to make my life better, easier, help me make better decisions faster with more confidence, things like that. Because I started out my career in an IT realm, technical realm, data engineering, architecture, things like that. And I'll never forget this. There was like one time I was sitting in with the VP of sales at this organization, and he wanted things a certain way. And, what this gentleman comes to me and says, listen, you're the technical guy, focus on the technical stuff. And what that taught me was nobody's ever going to listen to me. I cannot influence the change that I want to see if I'm sitting here on the sideline in the technical realm. I need to get in front of the business. And that's where I really made a strong commitment to getting whatever we were doing with data and analytics and being anchored in the business or being a very close business partner, to where they considered us a peer, an equal, and somebody that should be consulted when trying to make decisions. And we're just saying, hey, we're here to help. And so as we get to this theme of culture, it's still something that I fundamentally believe. My personal perspective is I'm a general management professional. I run businesses. I help improve the P&L. Those key general management objectives, just myself and my team just happen to be really good with data and analytics. And that's a reframe of being data and analytics to drive decision making. What I'm saying is, no, we're business professionals who are really good at this stuff. And what that does is that simple reframe, I've found that business people tend to look at us as peers now immediately, because we're talking business, we're talking P&L, we're talking sales growth and marketing and supply chain and operations, all the things that they talk about. But then we bring in the data stuff when it's needed. So it's a language shift. We're not talking about all the technical stuff because they don't care. Frankly, they don't care. They want results. It's like the analogy I use, and I use really stupid analogies on purpose because people remember them. And when people are focusing on data, I go, hey, you ever order like a plate of sausage or something like that? And you're like, yeah. When you order it, do you ask them how they make it? And you're like, no, why would I do that? I go, exactly. So why are you telling people about how your data solution works? They don't care. They really don't care. They just want the sausage. They just want the application. They just want to make better decisions faster and with more confidence. And that simple reframe is like, I when I'm coaching people, it's like, don't tell them how the sausage is made. They don't care. And so as we get to the theme of culture, this is what I coach my team on, is working with clients and advising them solutions. Like one other quick story, I had this brilliant young applied mathematician who was doing a pricing program revamp. And so I had him practicing. So I'm like, all right, I'm the executive, pitch me. He's like, well, the R squared is blah, 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 blah. I'm like, just try it again. Well, the flux capacitor is, I'm like, again, you've got 2 sentences to tell me in business sense what this means. And if you know me, this is a banter. This is part of the culture we have where I make fun, but it's in good spirit. Because I'm like, you're almost there. You're almost there. I go, executive speak. He's like, you can take price increases and mitigate your customer risk of like losing customers to price increases, because they're strategic price increases. I'm like, now you have my attention. Now, walk me through why. You got the hook. Got your hook. Now feed me and let me ask the questions, because now you're doing it on my terms. So rather, and this is a core concept I've talked about a lot, rather like what I teach my teams is, don't push the rope, create that end demand and let them pull towards you. So create something that resonates in their language. For the CEO, margin and revenue with minimal risk. I'm interested. How are you going to do that? And then you walk them through the next step. Okay, well, how are you going to do that? So it's something you talked about in your book too, which is being very strategic and sequential in how you choose to deliver the information, right?
Absolutely. And it's so important to speak their language, because otherwise you get such a big gap between the business and you and the data. And how should we organize from an organizational standpoint? How should we organize data professionals and data teams or individual data professionals in a wider business context? How do you believe in centralization, decentralization? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I would say it depends. As always, the typical consultant answer, it depends. For me, the biggest variable is company size and how mature it is. Bigger companies tend to have more resources that give you more capabilities. For smaller organizations, small and mid-sized organizations that tend to be lighter on resources, that centralized model where you just got, an extension of the IT team, but they're based in the business, I think is very, to me, if I'm putting a team together, you've got to have some core technical capabilities in terms of, necessary data engineering or whatever it is, but you can outsource those reliably and quickly. What I think is a lot harder to find is somebody who's business savvy enough to be able to speak and interact with the business, but then also knows what to do with it. So whenever I'm building teams, the first person I'm looking for is like a really good business analyst. If I'm looking for that lower mid-level, a really good business analyst. I actually really like working with finance professionals, FP&A professionals, because a lot of times they already have the business and financial knowledge, which is the foundation for executive communication. And they're already ingrained in so many components of the strategic planning process that I can usually quickly teach them, or my team can usually quickly teach them the technical stuff, especially with the plethora of tools we have today, where 10 years ago, you had to know how to program all this stuff. Today, there's so many tools that just make it plug and play. And then for the really heavy stuff, either, if push comes to shove, I can do it, but usually it's my team and or working with like some external resource where it's, it's somebody brought in to do a very specific job. Like if we have to do an architecture for a client, we'll either use in-house talent or we use somebody that we've used before that we know and trust that gets, we know how they operate in that cadence. So that's all that long-winded runaround to get to whenever I do it, because I am a very firm believer that even with the best infrastructure and visualizations and blah, 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 the breakdown happens if you can't connect with the business and get them to see the value of it. So I make my first bets in building those relationships and communication channels and trust with the business. Because that takes a long time. It can take a long time to earn that trust. And this is all the soft stuff that a lot of people don't talk about in the technical world. They think the tech solution alone, and we've talked about it a lot, that bridge, the gap. That's, in my mind, the essence of that is that we're trying to work on building that gap by taking our team and to go to their side, because that's all that we can control. Right. We talk all day about data literacy, and they need, yes, that is a completely legitimate point, but we can't control that. So we look at fundamental relationship, human relationships 101. I want to make the first outreach. I want to show that we're here to help you do better. Now when we extend that branch, chances are, if we do it right, they're going to want to meet us in the middle. Most people do. And then what we can do is saying, listen, we can help you, but we'll really accelerate this. Is if we can build up a little bit more data literacy, and here's some ways that we can do that, or whatever it is. But rather than saying you need to be data literate, and pushing the blame way, and it's easy to do. It's really easy to do. Yeah. But this is where it gets back to the theme of reflecting, and this is stuff again that I talk about because I think it's really important, and a lot of us don't do it, myself included. I'm the first one. I'll say I'm the first one, but I'm working at getting better with it, and I found that by doing this, it improves all the other stuff that we're doing along the way. And that's why, to bring it back to kind of life lessons, right? These are general life lessons, but they apply in the business world. And to get back to your point of where do we deploy people, because we've gone all over the place, that's kind of the logic and the why behind it. Because there's a deeper why. And I think the understanding the logic there, when you really peel back the onion, I think a lot of people could relate to it. And also, by clearly communicating that we're doing this to help you in this way, people naturally gravitate towards that. It builds trust. And with trust comes honest communication. And to me, that's been the backbone of my personal and professional success.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing those tips on trust, because I think it's such a fundamental skill to be able to build trust and have that conversation with business, because in the end, what many data professionals want is impact, right? They want their tools, their solutions to be used. And many data professionals are frustrated because they see the business people are not using their dashboard, their insights. But not everyone is asking themselves, what can I do? What can I change? What's within my circle of influence? So I like what you said about that. And then
Can I just make one recommendation? I'm sorry to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
Here's a tactical recommendation I make for people that are experiencing that. And I'm actually doing it right now with a new product that we're creating. I've created something, a dashboard, whatever it is. Take it to your customer and say like, hey, it would really mean a lot to me to get your feedback on this. And give them permission to beat it up. Be like, I want you to stress test this. Because now what you've done is you've opened the door for their honest feedback in a non-conflict centric manner. And with that, they're going to be like, wow, you're asking for my opinion? Like, yeah, I'll do that. Right? It's a simple reframe. It's a reframe of the ask. But again, what you're doing is you're giving them permission. You're asking for permission. And then if they agree to do it, they know that they can give you the honest feedback. Because if you don't give them that permission, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, it's good. And in their mind, they're like, this is crap. Right. Ask for the permission. Ask for it. And be willing to accept the feedback. Not in a negative tone, but think about it. This is voice of customer. This is the customer telling me how I can make my product or my solution better for them. And now guess what? By going through that, now they have ownership in it. Now it's a little bit theirs. Now they want to use it.
Right. I love that. It also relates to the IKEA effect. I'm not sure if you know about the IKEA effect, but the IKEA effect is about says that we value products or solutions more if we are involved in the process. Because the last time you bought a wardrobe and you assembled it yourself, you were probably enthusiastic and passionate or happy that the process was finished, right? Because you kind of did it yourself. And I think this is something we need to adopt in data analytics. And it's exactly like you're saying, because by asking the opinions of people in the business, you don't only get insights, rational insights, but also emotional buy-in. And I think that's so powerful and important for data professionals.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. What do you think is something you wish when you started in your career in data analytics? What is something you wish you knew about communication?
So I will say I'm biased in this one. In my entire life, communication skills have been a differentiator for me. So I do come at it from that lens. Communication has always been and it always will be what I feel sets me apart from my peers, because there are others that are much smarter, much more technically proficient, but in terms of the communication realm, I'm decent at it. So I offer that as context, but one of the things that I wish I knew earlier was just being willing to ask for help. When I was younger, I always felt this pressure, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to this, that you look stupid or incompetent or whatever it is to ask a question. You want to be smart about it, but I was always petrified of people are going to think I don't know what I'm talking about. And then I finally realized this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. The smartest people I know are constantly asking questions. And it was by watching other people over the years that I got comfortable with that idea. And I say that because for me, asking questions has been one of the most potent tools in my toolbox to not only understand, but to improve my communication with whoever it is. As an example, if a business leader is you're trying to grow revenue or whatever it is, you're trying to grow EBITDA. Well, why? Why? Before I'd be like, oh, okay, well, that's implied. Why? But as I grew in my career and got to understand it more, there's actually many reasons why. Maybe they were preparing for a sale. Maybe they were looking to sell to private equity. Maybe they wanted to buy a new house, whatever it is. But by asking questions, you get to the root, right? It's like the 5 whys, and Simon Sinek says, is you need to understand the why to get to the root driver, the emotional driver. Because by understanding that, now you have a lot more leverage to know how what you're doing relates to the broader picture, to get that deeper connection. And so for me, I would say it was just getting comfortable with the process of asking good questions and doing it with confidence and not being ashamed of it. Now that's my lens. I think for a lot of other people, it could be, public speaking. I took a lot of public speaking classes and worked a lot of my public speaking in high school and college because I was afraid of what will people think of me. Even you could probably relate to this in social media. You put a post out, and you get like, oh man, what's everybody going to say? I don't even care anymore. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, you're respectful and diplomatic and all that, but it's like you remove that fear through repetition. And what I found a lot of times, my fears were completely irrational.
Right.
They were my own fears, and in my own head, they were very legitimate. But as I stepped back from it, I'm like, this makes no sense. My fear of asking questions, nobody cares, right? My fear of posting, nobody cares. And so these were very valuable lessons. And again, they were unique to me. I'm guessing other people can relate to those. And each of us will have our unique mountain to climb on the communication front. But it starts with awareness. Because if you're not aware of what it is you want to do, where you want to go, a destination, it's kind of hard to get there.
Right. I love what you're saying about nobody cares, because my whole life I've been expecting that everyone is caring about what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, what I'm saying. And
Sure.
It's not true, right? Because many people at least, are in their own heads thinking about the same thing about themselves.
Yeah.
And not so many people care as we think. And about public speaking, you mentioned getting better at public speaking. I wanted to ask you, have you always been this energetic while speaking? Because when I think about you, I think about an energetic speaker.
So no, and I'm glad you brought that up. At its core, to the point I mentioned before about culture and leadership, a major part of what I want to do is inspire. Because what I'm saying, and I genuinely believe this, I hear people say this all the time, and again, when I was younger, I was like, yeah, whatever. People say, if I could do it, you can do it too. And it's like, when I was younger, I suppressed, the person you see now is like, if you meet me personally, this is exactly what I'm like in work. I mean, with a little couple tweaks, but, my job is to inspire people, to think differently, and you're not going to do that by being this ho-hum, blah, blah, blah. Maybe some people can, but that's not me. And for a long time, I suppressed that. I'll never forget this. Like, I was getting ready to leave a new job, or to leave for a new job. And so I was in my final 2 weeks. And I was just like, whatever. I mean, I love the place. I love and respect everybody, but I'm like, I'm just going to say whatever's on my mind. Again, with respect and professional, but I'm not going to suppress those thoughts anymore. And I just started talking, and people were like, Jason, where did this come from? Why weren't you doing this the whole time? And I was like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, this is really good stuff. And I was like, I've never thought about it like that. And so long story short, one of my mentors told me, they're like, hey, whatever came out that last 2 weeks, don't bottle that back up again. Keep it out. Because in a sea of sameness, monotone, and just you blend in, what you just displayed there makes you stick out. And that was me. That was like, if you saw Jason outside of work, that's what showed up. And people gravitate towards that. And this was I didn't realize this. And so as I started to speak, I said, I need to bring me to the stage. Me to even the person I'm talking to. Because I found that's how I connect with people. That's what creates that trust, that organic connection. That for a lot of people is lacking, but it's like it invokes emotion. It invokes power. And when you do that, you get this primitive connection and the ability to motivate and influence and expand the bounds with which people think, right? A lot of what I like to do, because I try to do it myself, is expand the way you think. Change the way you think about the world, yourself, your goals, your aspirations. What are you doing? But in order to be receptive to that, we have to do that pre-work. And that pre-work is, listen, man, I want to see you crush it. I know you got visions for things that are bigger in your life, whatever it is, or a lady, whoever it is. But it starts with you, and only you can get there. So my job is to just help you open your mind and create that vision, aid in that process. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, because it's unique to you. But I can help you open that door, and then you got to walk through it. And then once you walk through it, you better bet I'm here to keep you accountable in a good way, right? Because it's like, my coach used to always tell me in track, and it's a lesson I embrace today, is like, the pain today creates the pleasure or whatever it is tomorrow. So when you're running the workout or you're doing the hard work, it's not fun today, but it is what you need to do to get to that vision in the future, the championship, the promotion, public confidence, public speaking, whatever it is. It all involves discomfort. And I understand that a lot of this has really nothing to do on a surface level with data and analytics, but I'm actually convinced it's the foundation of sustained success, not only for the individual, but for the culture. Because when we talk about culture transformation, I can go in and I can motivate a room full of people to get the vision, to create that vision, and it's much easier to create buy-in. Okay, now that we've created the vision, we're going from here to here, and here's how we're going to do it. But guys, I can't do it without you, and I need you to embrace this process. Now, can you agree that getting from here to here sounds awesome? That's something we can do. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, great. Now, can I get your commitment that you're going to do the things that are needed to get from here to here? Yeah, I'm in. What are we going to need to do that? Well, we're going to do on our side, we're going to do this. But I need you to build up a little bit more data literacy. I need you to embrace data and analytics in the process. I need you to be willing to ask questions and look for help. The same way that we're going to be asking questions and looking for help. But the only way that we're going to get there is together. And so all that runaround again, as I usually do, to get to that central theme of public speaking and all of this and how it came to be, which is it was suppressed for a long time, but it came undone once I came to these realizations that I just got to be me.
Exactly.
Which is very liberating.
Yeah, it is. And I felt the same in my own life, and I love that you point out that you kind of demonstrate how to bring the business people along with you, right? And it's such a different way compared to saying, guys, you need to level up your technical skills. You don't have any data skills or gossip about them even. And now you bring them along. You point out what needs to happen, but you also say what you will do and where you're going together.
That's it.
This vision. And that's what I love. And also to be yourself and not suppress things. I've suppressed a lot of things in my life, but I also felt once I stopped suppressing things, it's liberating, like you're saying. And some people will be upset because you change, but also new people will be attracted to you, right? And I think as a data professional or as a person in life, that can bring you a lot of benefits. But I think it's most important for yourself, right? The feeling of being yourself and having the confidence to act in a way that is you instead of just fitting into that frame.
And I will say this, just to add on to your comment is, for myself, I was in my 30s before I figured that out. So if you're younger, you're listening to this, understand it's normal. Most people don't have this stuff figured out. Most people don't figure this out until later in life. But it's immensely liberating, as I said before, to live life the way that you want on your terms. And what you'll find is that things have a way of kind of going your way a little bit more, and there's less stress. You get greater clarity on what it is that you want, right? That's very powerful, and I didn't really realize the power of that until I was actually in that situation. But yeah, it's great. It's a great feeling.
Awesome. So we talked a lot about, your transformation. Right now you're CEO of Strategy Titan, and you moved from a regular job, so to say, into entrepreneurship. I'm sure there's so much you've learned, but you're also such a busy man. You have a family, you have kids. How do you combine everything?
Yeah, focus, prioritization. It's easy to get overwhelmed with the little stuff. If you let it, and it comes down to, you put up something the other day. I think it was from you. Big rocks, medium rocks, and the sand. I went through a process that essentially emphasized the same thing. So, what are the big rocks? It's the 40X process. I don't know if listeners do that, but I love it. It's great. It's about, what do you want to do? What are the things that you need to do in order to get there? What are the commitments you're going to make on a regular basis in order to make that happen? Very basic, but very effective. And so for me, it is, what are the big rocks? What are the things that I need to be doing with my job at Strategy Titan? it's very easy to get into the weeds on the stuff, but I need to be working on the business and not in it. And so that's why I outsource a lot. I use my team for things. Really, it's creating the vision for these things. And so, I've got the work, big rocks, strategic development, business development, partnership, all that stuff. On my personal front, I've got my health, physical, mental, emotional. I'm a big believer in taking care of the physical first. You get your sleep, you take care of your body, mental and emotional tend to fall into place. Also stress management, all that other stuff. Got to take care of yourself first, because if you don't take care of that, you can't take care of anything else that matters. If you're sick, right? And so that's where a lot of my energy comes from. I'm naturally a pretty energetic guy, but I love to crush weights, get at it. Working out wise, it invigorates me and gives me life. Then it's figuring out on the family front, what are my priorities? How am I going to be a better dad this week? What are the things that I can do with the kids? Right now, we're getting ready for Christmas break. I got a laundry list of things I'm going to do with the kids, because it's like, for me, this is a priority at this juncture in their lives to make memories. I mean, it always is, but really right now with the holidays and Christmas. And then, it's my relationships. Relationships are, it's the key buckets that matter in life, but my wife and my friends and all this. And it's just prioritizing, what are my priorities? And it could change from week to week. You got a busy week, you got to travel, whatever it is, work takes the priority. But as weird as this sounds, I actually rank every day. I have a list of key things, simple Excel spreadsheet. What are the things that matter to me, and how did I do in that area today?
Do you make an evaluation at the end of the day, or how?
Yeah. What I do is every week, I have a rolling week average. It's my own assessment, my own scale. I'm an analytics guy. I got to do this.
And how did the scores develop, if you want to share?
Yeah, so I just use a simple 1 to 5, right? So, like with the workouts, if I got to the gym and it was a workout, I'm gonna give it a 3. Basically, I have my own standards, my own rating system, where it's like based on my goals for either this month, this quarter, or this year. How did the work that I do contribute to the refinement of that goal? Because let's just use an example. If you want to get in shape and your goal is you got a diet plan and exercise plan, well, you can physically go to the gym, but if you're not doing the work at the high enough intensity or quality, well, you're showing up, but you're not really showing up, so you're not going to get the results, right? So that's where it's like in the gym example, because it's one everybody can relate to. Did I exercise at the intensity that I wanted to, at the duration, and all the things that I wanted? If I'm just doing a yoga, maybe that's a 2 or something like that, right? Because, but to quantify my own system. On the parenting side, did I engage with the kids in the manner that, was I being the dad I wanted to be, or was I distracted by something else? Again, these are unique to me, but again, the concept can be applied to anybody. And then what I do is that helps me identify, and this came from actually training. One of the things we would do when we were training is before bed, we would take our heart rate every single night. And one of the things you could do is, as you saw your resting heart rate right before bed going up, it was a sign of overtraining. So we would back off training to get your resting heart rate back down. Because your body's calm, and it's like if it's elevated when it's calm, you've got to stress. So it's born from that core idea. But it's just the same thing as where if I see my parenting trend going down, I'm like, okay, I need to recalibrate, right? The workout one we can always have at 5, so I'm good with that. But it's a mechanism to quantify something that seems to be non-quantifiable. It's my own rating system, more qualitative, but it helps me keep track of things.
I love it. And I also love that you include family and kids and how present you were with them, because it's so easy if you have a busy job, and you have so many priorities, in your professional life, in your personal life, and you have your family, you really want to be with them, right? And not be on your phone and not checking email and not be mentally in the office while you speak and play with your kids. So I think it's a powerful system. I might steal some ideas there. Cool.
Well, please do. It's one of those that, my buddy Jordan Morrow and I talk about the family topic all the time. And for me, it really hit me. My daughter was very young, and I was working hard on a project. And she came and essentially wanted me to paint her nails. And I was like, honey, I can't right now. And she started crying. And it punched me like a semi. I was like, what am I doing? Well, I got to get my priorities straight. No, I will paint your nails. We did the hands and toes. It was great. But it was one of those where it's like, don't forget this feeling. Make it a priority. And so I actually put family and health are my two most important. If I'm not healthy, I can't be a good dad, father, husband. And it's just, to me, those are the two top ones. Because that really, in the end, that's all that really matters. Family and health.
It is. It is. Awesome. Also, something I noticed is you're into personal development and you like reframing. And you also say, make it a great day. You don't say, have a good day, have a great day, but you say, make it a great day. Tell us why is that and what is the meaning behind that for you?
Yeah, it's a very powerful reframe in that have suggests that it's at chance. If you have a great day, it's totally by chance. Make it a great day says, well, you control that. And you can control that in a variety of different ways through proactive actions. But even things that happen, my wife makes fun of me all the time for this. Bad things will happen. And I'll be like, okay, what are we going to do? Because from that is like, okay, well, one, there's something to be learned. Two, we can't change the past. So all we can do is look forward. We can acknowledge the past, learn from it. But there's no use in wasting energy on that. Let's look at how we address this issue. But three, I've also found a lot of times with that simple perspective, you actually find opportunity in those disasters where, like just so many examples of it on a personal level, some in the professional level too, where things fall apart and you're like, actually, this is good. And it's hard to see that at the time. So the point is that that's a function of perspective. And the perspective, the idea with make it a great day is the perspective that you have the ability to influence how you perceive things. Like I tell my kids all the time, I coach them on this. You'll experience emotions and it's totally normal. You'll experience an emotion of rage, anger, happiness, whatever it is. I specifically like to focus on the negative ones because it's like you're gonna have things that make you mad. And I share what I do is I have it every day where something happens and an emotion comes up and I let it happen. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to let this emotion express itself. But I'm not going to let it dominate. I'm going to experience it. I'm going to acknowledge it. And be like, why do I feel this way? Now, how can I change my state to really step back from the emotion? Because when you're emotional, it's very difficult to step back. But the first part of stepping back is to acknowledge that emotion. And then once we acknowledge, okay, I am feeling fear or anger or resentment or guilt or whatever it is. Okay, I now have compartmentalized that. And I'm going to step back from that. Why? And how can I change it? And so all of this gets to have a great day is when those emotions happen, we don't have any control over them. Make it a great day is the process of things happen in life. I'm using emotions as an example. And things happen, but we're not a victim to that emotion. We can sit there and we can be proactive in the management of it. So have is things happen. Make is things happen, I respond, and then I change the way that things unfold. Internally and or externally. But this reframing gets back to the theme of emotional management, energy management, because if you're constantly focused on the negative, it just saps your energy. It does. So people ask me, how the hell are you so energetic all the time? That is one of the core things, is that like, it's not ponies and unicorns. Stuff happens. It does, it's going to happen. But the way that I respond to it is it's the energy for it, because I'm not sitting here like, oh, well, this is really bad. It's like, no, things happen. What are we going to do? Right? And here's the thing, I will acknowledge. That sounds simple, but that is a muscle I have been working on developing my entire year. So I'm fully acknowledging that is a lot harder than it sounds. I know.
It is very hard, but I agree with you that it's so powerful if you're able to step back and feel the emotion, but not let it take control over you. And this also makes me think about your journey as an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur you do a lot of scary things, right? You take risks. What do you see as the scariest thing you've done so far, or the scariest decision you had to take?
For to get to the point of risk that we talked about before, I used to be focused on the risk of, like you said, financial risk. What if this doesn't work? And then I reframed risk. And this has context within what, there's a point here, but my bigger risk was, what if I don't do something and I regret it? And as I thought about that, let's say I'm 60, 65, I'm sitting late in life, and I wish I did that. It scared the hell out of me. Where I was like, this is my personality.
Yeah,
it
was the same for me.
Yeah, and I remember you saying something. That's why I bring this up, is because you can relate to it, is that I was petrified of the fear and regret that I would feel. I was able to envision, if I put myself in my future self, I was feeling those emotions today. And I was like, I was getting sick, and I'm like, I don't know what I would do. And so that's where it was like the fear of not doing something. It was like, I'm going to try things, and it's actually quite likely they will fail. But I am okay with that. I am fine with that, because I'm going to be smart about it. I'm going to get help. I'm going to ask the questions. All of those things mitigate risk, right? I'm going into something that I'm a professional in. So all of these things come together, much like yourself. What you went to go do, you're very competent in. You're very good in. So you mitigate a lot of the unnecessary risk of jumping into something that you know nothing about. You have no network, right? You were smart about it. And so, for me, that risk, bigger risk was not doing something. One of the scariest decisions I ever had was leaving the safety of corporate America, right? It was one of those where I had job offers to go do everything that at the beginning of my career I thought was my end game. And I was staring it in the face, and I was like, I had like one particular instance, there's a $100+ billion company, and they wanted me to go be their basically chief strategy and analytics officer. I had a job offer in my hand. I was like, well, I could take this, and I could ride off into the sunset. And this would hit every career goal I thought I would have. But I actually wasn't excited about it at all. I was actually scared, because I'm like, I'm going to be trapped. I'm never going to pursue that entrepreneurial dream. And if I'm going to do it, now is the time to do it. If I do this, I'm going to get to be that 65 and looking back with regret. So I declined the job offer, and that was scary. And I said, I'm going to do this. And then I made the jump. So that by itself was scary. Even scarier, as you can attest to, starting a business is really hard. Doesn't matter how good you are. It's really hard. And I bootstrapped. Well, you throw in a pandemic, it gets a little bit harder. And one of the first products we're going to make, that we're actually getting ready to release now, was a labor insight product. Labor, wages, things like that for local markets and key occupations. We're going to release it in late May, early June 2020. Well, the pandemic hits, and labor markets are blown up. And I couldn't release an information product with labor markets being blown up. Models would have been totally wrong. Credibility would have been shot right out of the gate. So I had to shelve it. So this is where, talking about that emotion, I freaked out. And I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. So I experienced that emotion. I said, okay, what can I do? Well, I got the RV client that's got this data. And long story short, I looked at how can we make a product, right? Because the pressure created intense clarity. We need to figure something out today. So long story short, I developed a data product that forecasted the RV retail market. And then I landed a couple consulting gigs and things like that, and advisory gigs to help companies on their data and analytics journey. And all of that held us over, and we've done quite well with it. But it was really scary to then have just your business model get blown up. You have to figure out literally within a month, what am I going to do? Because I did not have an answer. And this was not in the plan. It wasn't in the contingency planning that we had. You could take it, this was like it times 10. We're like, you don't plan for this stuff. So it was like, what do we do? And that's where moving away from what we wanted to do into something we were capable of doing but didn't align with our business model that we wanted to build was also not risky, because the risk wasn't real, but the risk was that we got addicted to that business model, and then we had to leave everything on the side. So those were two examples of leaving corporate America to start my own company, And then when the pandemic hit, of choosing the business model that we were going to have to go after just to survive. Those are two extremely scary situations. But for both of them, using the corporate example, I knew it was the right decision. It was just change. It was scary because it was different. But I knew it was right. The entrepreneurship one, I didn't know if the plan was going to work. I thought it was going to work, but I didn't know because so much was in the air. And as anybody, if you're working in a corporate environment, there's a lot of fear there. If you're an entrepreneur starting a business, there was immense fear because everything was crumbling around you. So that's my long-winded run-around answer of two examples.
Powerful. Two powerful examples because it's all connected, right? How we talk about dealing with what happens and dealing with difficult situations, how you deal with that, how you wrestle with the fear and the emotions, and then still make a decision that you hope in the end will pay off. And I think it did. So I'm very happy to see. I've seen your growth with Strategy Titan, and I'm also curious what's on the list. What's gonna be the future for Strategy Titan and yourself?
I'm telling you what, we got some good stuff coming. So we got a number of things that are coming out with Strategy Titan. The first one is the educational platform that we had originally slated for mid this year. It got pushed back for a number of reasons. And we're preparing to release that probably Q1 of this year. Additionally, I cannot disclose yet, but there is a well-known platform where we are creating a plethora of executive-level content for, specifically around many of the things we've talked about here: leadership, communication, data strategy, business strategy, and how all of these things interrelate. We also have our labor insight product, Labor Titan, that is coming out. This was our original business model, and I'm not going to lie, it's really good. I'm biased, but everybody we showed it to in our beta was like, where did you get this? And they go, well, this is what we do. It gets to the theme of making this information incredibly easy to access, very easy to understand, so you can actually do something with it, right? That's one of the big problems with labor data. A lot of great stuff out there, but there's a lot of holes and a lot of friction to consuming that. We're going to solve that problem. Then there's just a plethora of other things in terms of partnerships that we're working on and relationships that we're looking to develop. Individuals like yourself that are well known, respected, and very good. But we've got a lot of stuff cooking, and the thing is we're obsessed with customers. And so this isn't me talking, this is customers telling us that, paying customers, right? Because one thing for somebody to tell you, if you got a paying customer telling you this and talking on your behalf, then you got something pretty good. And so it's just exciting to see what we had originally envisioned coming to life. Due to the pandemic, it was put off. But now coming to life, it's immensely exciting and unbelievably invigorating. I mean, I wake up every day like ready to run through walls.
That's awesome, man. I'm so happy to hear about the progress and about the plans as well. And I've seen all the the customer testimonials and what customers have been saying about Strategy Titan, and it's fantastic to see. And what I would love to do now is have a rapid fire round, to have some quick questions with some short answers, and then we have some last questions. So first, to go through the rapid fire round, what's your favorite place to travel?
Oh, I have not been, but I want to go to Italy.
Italy. Do you listen to music while working? If yes, what type of music?
All the time. I do. I like this Monster Cat. It's a Canadian electronica. I like that, and for some reason, jazz.
Jazz, awesome. What's your number one place, thing, or person that you go to for learning?
Ooh, I got a lot of them. LinkedIn as a platform, and then person, probably Jordan Morrow, the individual. That guy knows a ton.
Yeah, fantastic book as well. Data literacy.
Yes. Yep.
What's the first career you dreamed of as a kid? You dreamed of as
astronaut. I wanted to go to space. I love space. I still love space. I'm fascinated by it. But yeah, astronaut. And if I had the chance now, I'd still do it. I'd be scared as hell, but I'd still do it.
What's one thing that surprises people about you?
I think when they meet me in person for the first time is just how outgoing I am. I think most people expect me to be reserved, That's at least what I get told. Is they're like, "Wow, you're really outgoing." I go, "Yeah, I get energy from people, like being around people and talking to people, not necessarily talking, but conversing energizes me."
Awesome. And at what job would you be terrible?
Oh gosh. Oh, I would be really bad at accounting for many reasons. Many reasons. Like, I would be a terrible accountant.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So we go to the last few questions. Apart from the rapid fire round, take as much time as you wish. One question is about LinkedIn. Why did you start writing on LinkedIn? When was it, and how did you experience that?
Yeah, I think it was like 4 years ago, roughly. I was actually at my job. They were telling me about how hard it was to build a brand. I'm like, it can't be that hard. It's hard. It is. But I go, I'm like, well, I'm going to practice on myself, right? I learn by doing. So I said, well, I'm going to learn by doing. I'm going to try to build my own brand. And I started just writing, and it was terrible. It was awful. But what I realized is I liked the process of writing. And at first I did it because I wanted to see how many followers I could get or whatever. Now I write just because I like to write about these topics. That's why I write about a lot of different things. It's more, as with this, I would say I'm guessing 80% of the topics here on the surface probably aren't of interest to the data and analytics community. But I'm guessing to a lot of people, if they listen to this thing the whole way through, they're going to realize that a lot of these topics really are important pillars of sustained success for many types of data and analytics leadership. Now, leadership isn't for everybody. Some people are going to be totally fine staying in the technical realm. But I started sharing my thoughts on LinkedIn because I liked learning from the community. A lot of times when I would put an idea out, I would get great feedback and be like, I don't really think about it like that, because I'm a huge fan of respectful disagreement. Let's disagree. Let's agree to disagree, but let's be respectful about it. Now, I'm going to present an idea. I'm going to volley it across the table, and I want you to hit it back, and let's have that back and forth. And what I found, that's good for two things. One, it's good for just conversational skills. Two, it helps you strengthen your own argument. But three, with the context of respectful disagreement, you might actually have the ability to, one, be persuaded, or two, persuade the other person. Maybe not right there, but over time. You plant a seed for an idea. And that's really what I'm trying to do with LinkedIn and my posts, is to just plant seeds. Like when I put something up, I'm 99% sure when I put it up, this thing's going to resonate with the audience. Like when I put up something that's going to get a lot of engagement, I know it. Just like you. You know it when you put it up. But my goal isn't to just get a ton of likes there and comments. It's to get people to think. And that clarity of purpose on there really helps me sort through what I want to talk about. Because it's not for me, I'm just sharing ideas, planting those seeds to get people to think differently, as has been the central theme of a lot of what we've talked about today. Reframing, rethinking, repositioning these things on many different levels. If I wanted to go on LinkedIn and get something with 100,000 views every day, it's pretty formulaic. It's not that hard to figure out, right?
Right.
But that's not the goal. That's not the goal, to be there. It gets to the point where I said before we started recording, if you wanted to get X views per year, it's a pretty simple playbook. But then I'm not achieving what I'm there to do, which is because a lot of that playbook is commodity. Anybody can do it. I'm trying to share my perspective and the value that I bring to the table, which I think is planting change in the mind. And once you change your mind, everything else changes.
Love it. Yeah, and something else to add to that, for my experience is also if I write, whether it's on LinkedIn or in a personal diary or wherever, when I write, I discover what I think. And by trying to articulate my thoughts in words written, this makes me so much more confident in expressing it and understanding what I think and getting new perspectives as well. Thinking, okay, this is what I'm about to write, and then having a different thought after I've written that. Is that something you recognize?
100%. Exactly what you just articulated is exactly the same for me. It's fascinating, and I would love to get your take on why this happens. But I noticed this by accident, because it's like I'd write something, and it's like just by going through and rereading, it's like you'd almost have like a self-reframe, which is incredibly odd. Like, I don't know, how did it unfold for you? Like, how did you discover that?
Yeah, I had been writing for quite a while when I started on LinkedIn. I was writing on Quora, and I had a blog on my website which got 0 views, or maybe 1 view, because I sent an article to my friend, and he looked at it. He gave some feedback. But by writing more and more and making it a habit, I still write every day, not just on LinkedIn, but also do some reflections on my own journal. And then I see what I've written 1 year ago or 2 years ago. And it's so fascinating to see what I wrote back then, because one, if I see patterns, then it probably means something and I can derive insight. For example, if I'm skipping a workout and then I'm being stressed at work, that means, okay, I need to put more emphasis on the workout and just get my ass out there. Or about, what I enjoy. I really enjoyed having my own projects when I was working for an employer. I really enjoyed taking initiative. So I thought, okay, I really need to do something more with it. So I started as an entrepreneur, right? And that's all I do, taking initiatives and see what works and try things out. So I learned so much about myself and about my life and how I want my life and the mountain, which mountain I'm actually climbing or which mountain I want to climb. So it gave me so much insights about myself, my career, and my life.
I love it. In exactly the central theme I'm hearing is clarity. Right through the process, you gain clarity. And if I were to journal, if I were to get in the DeLorean time machine and go back and tell me even 10 years ago that I'd be talking about this stuff today, I would have laughed at current day me. I mean, like, that's ridiculous. And it's one of those things where what I tell people is that maybe you're not ready for it. I wasn't ready for it until a certain point in my life. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's possibly merit in it, and it might be something to consider. Because that's been one of the things, you talked about being busy before. Attention and focus is so hard in today's day and age. And the process of stepping back and writing creates clarity. As you articulated, and for me too, it's very similar. But it's a process to get that clarity. It doesn't just come. And sometimes, like we were saying beforehand, like the product we're getting ready to release now, I thought it was great then. I walked away. I came back at it with a new lens. I'm like, this is garbage. And that's a good process. That's actually good because it's refinement. It's getting additional clarity and things like that. But it takes time. And you need to be receptive to the idea. For me, at least, I needed to be receptive to the idea that maybe that first iteration isn't where we end up and that this process might take time because a lot of times I want things now. And that's where getting that clarity requires patience. And it's crazy because the interwoven nature of all of this.
Everything, right?
Everything. And it doesn't seem like it on the surface. And it's just, it's things that it takes time, but once you realize this, man, it is powerful stuff.
It is, and maybe that's a wonderful bridge to the last question that I want to ask, because the last question I want to ask is about what is the one takeaway you want people to take from this episode, and maybe you can enforce or some of talk about all the different principles and how it's interwoven. I think that would be great. Yeah.
I would say the central theme is embrace the process and discomfort that comes with change, right? To use the mountain analogy, if we're going from here to here, that's a physical representation of change. You have to change in some way, shape, or form. The way that we handle emotions, as we talked before, or the way you look at the day, make it a great day, have a great day. All of that is based on change. And constant evolution is a great thing, I think, right? Who we are today is great. And if some people might be okay with who they are, but a lot of people that I know want better. They want better for themselves. They want better for family. They want better for whoever it is or whatever it is that's in their life. All of that is centralized on the idea of change. And a lot of what we've talked about here our tools, tactics, techniques, and strategies to embrace the process of change, because the fact is, change is hard. It really is. I as much as I love it, I would say I still naturally gravitate towards status quo. Even though I love change, but that's the emotion. I'm going to get back to the emotion thing. That's where I go immediately. But I'm like, no, I don't want to be the same. I acknowledge that emotion. I want to change. I want to get better. I want to learn. And so I just say, open your mind to the process of change, because if you're not receptive to change, you're never going to change, regardless of how good your plan is, how great your intentions are. And also acknowledge that it's going to involve discomfort. But sometimes the discomfort is now is far less than the discomfort of the future in not changing.
Awesome. Jason, where can people connect with you, follow you, find more about Strategy Titan and your work?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I would recommend, find me on LinkedIn. Pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. And then also strategytitan.com. That's a great place to find us for our advisory, consulting, and analytic solution development. And also, again, you gotta be sure to check out that Labor Titan product we got coming out. It is pretty awesome. If you do anything related to workforce analytics, labor analytics, wages, as an example, if you wanted to know what do accountants make in the Chicagoland market, U.S. focused, we can tell you. And not only that, we can tell you what the wages are projected to be for the next 3 years. That's pretty valuable stuff in a labor market where wages are moving incredibly quickly, globally, especially in the United States. And it's really hard to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. We help solve that problem.
Awesome. I'll put the links in the show notes as well. Jason, awesome. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. There's a bunch I learned, and I'm sure the listeners can take away a lot from this as well. Thank you for the great conversation about change, about the mountain, about defining the mountain for yourself. So thanks a lot. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. And thank you very much for the opportunity to talk. As always, I enjoy it. And for the people listening, thank you for your time. Time's a valuable commodity, and I'm glad you gave me a little bit. But make it a great day.
Let's end with that. Thanks a lot, Jason. Thanks for everyone listening. Do you want people to listen to your data and increase your business impact? Then take my free email course or do the quick self-test of your data communication skills. Go to mindspeaking.com and start learning today.